It happened 24 years ago that we were living in Buffalo Grove, nearby. We wanted to stay in the area, but we wanted a larger home. We had 2 children, a big dog, and we were ready to look in a new area. And Ken really grew up in Lake Zurich, so I kind of feel that he always steered us here because of that. But nonetheless, we looked and we loved this house and property for a lot of reasons. But to be honest, it really wasn't what I thought my next house was going to look like. Just, I think, more of the country kind of feel to the home. And I wasn't really wild about that. And my children were 3 and 4, and the pond next door scared me a little bit. And the lack of a front sidewalk along the road. I wasn't used to being more out in the country. So anyhow, we looked at this home, and Ken loved it right away. And so we kept coming back to take a look. And, you know, it's funny, sometimes when you have a big decision and you pray for an answer and you still don't have it. I was in that moment. And one night we pulled down the driveway, and along the side of the house, all by itself, was a rose bush with one pink rose really popping. It goes back to my mother. It was her favorite flower. And I was very close to my mom and lost her. She was very young. And so there's some things that really draw an immediate connection with my mom. And the sight of that pink rose was my mom talking to me and saying, yes, Carol, this would be a good house for you and Ken and your family. And I knew God worked his magic and wonder by giving me that sign, because I was lost. But I'm always open to seeing something, hearing something that gives me clarity. And God has done that for me a lot in my life. And the moment that pink rose was there, we knew. I just looked at Ken in the car and I go, there's my answer.
Yeah.
There's my answer. It was a wonderful sign.
It was. Well, we had our son, who was 4 at the time, our daughter, who was 3 years old at the time. And so all of our decision making was really directed towards how best can we provide a wonderful place for them to grow up in, and for a home for them to have and to call home for themselves. That also gave them access to a wonderful school district, family, friends that were close by. And this house really met all of those things and then some, because it came with woods, nature. There's so much wildlife that passes through, and experiences that we've had over the 24 past years that are so fun to reflect back on, and to expose all of that and have that in your backyard for your children to grow up and see even the large snapping turtles coming from the wetlands to the pond. And for them to be able to see wildlife up close like that naturally was really, really special.
The one thing I knew is that this house became a very warm, loving environment. From the views, when I would look out the windows, and every window looks out at nature. And I didn't realize that when I first was looking at this place, what it could offer. And the serene feeling sitting out on a front porch, which I never had before.
There was always going to be a point when our kids grew up and moved on with their lives. And once college was finished up, both of our children were very fortunate to get jobs and find a place to live and start their lives. And it left knowing that we were going to be just the two of us here. That time was going to eventually come. We knew that at what point in our lives, how long we would be here, we didn't know those things. But when we both first moved here, one of the first evenings that I was taking out the garbage to the end of the driveway, I had an opportunity to meet the pastor of Alpine Chapel Church. And we were literally not in the house more than maybe a week. And Pastor Dick was his name. And we had a lovely conversation. And he ended the conversation by asking me a favor. He said, "Can you do me a favor?" And I said, "Well, sure, Pastor. What can I do?" And he said, "Well, when that time comes, I know you just moved in, but when that time comes and you're on that point of moving on, would you give the church first option? Would you give them the first chance to buy the house?" And at the time we had just moved in, so I said to him, "Well, yeah, of course. I'll promise you that. I will do that." And so we left it at that. And 24 years later, well, actually 19 years later or so, I came over to visit Pastor Dave and the church, and said it was getting close to the time for Carol and I to move on, to downsize and go on to the next chapter of our lives. And we started that conversation. Was there snow blowing then?
You had the snowblower at the end of the driveway.
I was at the end of the driveway, and Pastor Dave happens to be coming down the church's drive. And we had a conversation. And you had asked me what was our plans with the house and what were we intending on doing. And I shared with Pastor Dave that, well, as a matter of fact, it's funny you ask, we're putting the house up in about a week. And we're getting ready to sign with a broker. And the sign will go in the yard in short order. And Pastor Dave had said, "Well, when's that gonna happen?" I said, "Well, about a week." And you asked me, you said, "Well, just wait. Let me get back to you tomorrow.
Don't sign anything.
Yeah,
let us talk.
Let me get back to you tomorrow." And our second conversation about the house was born.
We did have our realtor coming the following weekend, and you needed to discuss this, but we also needed to get going. And what happened is when we were invited to come speak with you and some of the elders and heard the plans and the vision that you have for your church, and all that it encompassed was eye-opening. My jaw almost was hanging because it was wonderful. It was impressive. It was news to us. I mean, it was like, wow.
We thought it was going to be your house.
And one thing, Pastor Dave, you said was that what we really see, the house is becoming a house of hope. And it is, I'm like a thunderbolt, so clear to me when this happened. As soon as I heard you say that, I grabbed that banner. I grabbed that whole idea, and I felt totally in a new place, a whole new place, and I wanted that vision too, because would never ever. We would talk, well, the new family will come, they probably will have 3 kids and a big dog, and we hope we like them. It went from, oh my goodness, I want this to be a house of hope. Ken and I are sitting Saturday morning, knowing that the meeting is happening, and we're sitting in our kitchen with our coffee mugs going, oh, what do you think? Oh, okay. And we really did pray, because we didn't really know what was going to be that answer. And then Ken's cell phone rang. And he looked at it, and then I think your name came up. And he goes, okay, this is it. And so he put you on speaker, and you spoke a little bit of also your negotiations back and forth of discussions of should we or should we not. And when you said, and I'm so happy to tell you, they agree, we're gonna go through with this. Ken and I did not even say a word. We stood up simultaneously and just hugged each other. Just hugged each other. And we were so happy.
Few tears shed.
Yeah.
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 Really special.
So happy. So happy. Because it was the right thing to happen. It was the right thing to happen, and the way it happened, and oh my goodness, it's almost like a miracle. And I always said too, when something really good happens out of the blue, for not so much maybe this, but for whenever something happened and you just know, it's like, how in the world did that happen? It was so great. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. And if you don't know that God just didn't do that for you, then you're really missing something important, because it's like the little girl in me. You do something good, He's going to do something good. And when I know that this wonderful structure, which was our home, is taking on a new dimension of helping people who walk through here and will leave better, stronger, with hope.